What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, a duchess is preparing to flee Britain? Not for a vacation, not for a book tour, but for something far more desperate. Something the palace is desperately trying to keep quiet. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, is orchestrating what insiders are calling a strategic escape to Portugal. And the timeline? January, just weeks away. But here's what's really shocking. While Prince Andrew gets relocated to a smaller royal property, Sarah gets absolutely nothing. No cottage, no grace and favor apartment, no palace support whatsoever. Just a January deadline.
Not on. And all the brothers were, so I took them out of their grave, poor loves, and said, come on.
And her daughter's villa waiting on the Atlantic coast. This is the story of how a woman who married into one of the most powerful families on earth became effectively homeless. How a single email destroyed everything she'd built. And why Portugal might be her only escape from a scandal that refuses to die. But what is she really running from? And why does the palace want her gone so badly? Stay until the end, because what I'm about to reveal will shock you. But first, if you want the unfiltered truth about what's really happening inside the House of York, hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, this rabbit hole goes deeper than you could possibly imagine. The Portugal Plan. Let me paint you a picture. Right now, staff at the Costa Terra Golf and Ocean Club in Portugal are preparing a guest suite. Not for a weekend visitor, not for a short-term guest, for Sarah Ferguson, for a January arrival, for what sources are calling an extended, possibly permanent stay. Now you might be thinking, so what? Rich people have vacation homes. But here's what makes this different. Costa Terra isn't just any luxury compound. This is a heavily gated, ultra-private celebrity hideaway along Portugal's Atlantic coast. We're talking about the kind of place where Madonna owns property.
Probably had to get on better with the policeman than Prince Andrew, in fact, just to make sure that in the car journey back they said, oh, she's nice.
Where Scarlett Johansson escapes paparazzi. Where Nicole Kidman maintains a private residence. One neighbor, speaking anonymously to reporters, said something chilling. The word here is that Fergie will be arriving sometime in January. Everyone knows this isn't a weekend break. Think about that for a moment. Even the neighbors know this is an escape, not a vacation. So what exactly is she escaping from? The answer is more complicated and more devastating than you might imagine. Because while you've been focused on Prince Andrew's scandals, Sarah Ferguson's world has been quietly collapsing around her. And now, that collapse has reached its final stage. The Royal Lodge eviction. Here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you clearly enough. Sarah and Andrew are being forcibly removed from Royal Lodge, their Windsor home where they've lived together for 17 years. 17 years. This isn't just a house to them. This is where they rebuilt their relationship after divorce. This is where they proved to the world that unconventional arrangements could work. This is their sanctuary. King Charles has made his position crystal clear. They're out. No negotiations, no extensions, no royal privileges protecting them anymore. But here's where it gets truly heartbreaking. Prince Andrew will be moved, reportedly alone, to Sandringham. It's a downgrade, absolutely, but at least he has somewhere to go. He's still technically royalty. He still has protections, however, diminished. Sarah Ferguson? She gets nothing. Let that sink in for a moment. Palace insiders have confirmed there is no plan for Sarah. No cottage waiting for her, no grace and favor apartment being prepared, not even a temporary solution while she figures things out.
I'm not going to sing a song, and I haven't prepared a speech, but I'm so pleased to be here today.
The message from the palace is brutally simple. Make your own arrangements. You're on your own. She is literally about to be homeless. A Duchess of York. About to be homeless. Can you imagine that? One day you're living in a historic Windsor mansion. The next, you're scrambling to find somewhere, anywhere to live because the King of England wants you gone. And here's the part that should terrify anyone paying attention. The impending split from Andrew isn't just geographical. Sources close to the couple describe it as final and emotionally brutal. After almost 2 decades living as unofficial partners, maintaining this unique post-divorce relationship, even that's over. Recent reports describe tense dinners at Royal Lodge, difficult conversations. Sarah is described by one source as panicked, anxious, and increasingly emotional about physically parting ways from Andrew for the first time in decades. But why? Why is this happening now? What changed? Well, I'm about to show you exactly what the palace has been trying to bury. The Epstein connection. Let's talk about the email that destroyed everything, because this is where Sarah's carefully rebuilt reputation completely imploded. An email surfaced, leaked to the press. In it, Sarah Ferguson called Jeffrey Epstein a supreme friend. Supreme friend. Those two words have haunted her ever since. Now, before we go further, let me ask you something. How many of your friendships could survive that kind of scrutiny? How many connections in your past might look suspicious under the harshest possible spotlight? But here's why it matters so much in Sarah's case. This wasn't just embarrassing. This was catastrophic. Every charity role she had carefully cultivated wiped out overnight. The British Heart Foundation, she was removed as ambassador. Organizations she'd worked with for years, they quietly severed ties. No announcements, no explanations, just silence. And remember?
To me, to come on this show, she'd say, go on, get out there, keep being yourself.
This is a woman who had already accepted £15,000 from Jeffrey Epstein years earlier to help clear her debts. That money, that connection, that favor, it created a link she could never fully escape, but it gets worse. Much worse. American investigators in Congress have recently revived the Epstein inquiry. New subpoenas, new pressure, new interest in everyone, and I mean everyone, who benefited from Epstein's connections, his network, his resources. Prince Andrew is obviously at the center of this storm. But Sarah? She's back on the radar. Sources familiar with the congressional investigation confirm that anyone connected to Epstein during the relevant time periods is being examined. That includes the Duchess of York.
The thing is that I lost
together is what I'm saying.
Together,
yeah.
yes, we 100% lived together.
A U.S. source familiar with Costa Terra told reporters something incredibly revealing. It's perfect for Fergie to hide out while the Epstein affair rumbles on in Congress. She'll be among family and far from the hostile atmosphere in England. Did you catch that? Hide out. Not vacation, not visit. Hide out. Portugal isn't just sunny and luxurious. Portugal is a shield. It's protection. It's distance from American investigators, British tabloids, and palace pressure. But is distance enough? Can you really escape a scandal of this magnitude by moving to another country? The media blackout. While Sarah's world was imploding behind the scenes, something else was happening. Something that should concern everyone who values transparency. Sarah Ferguson was quietly dropped from ITV's Loose Women. Now, if you're not familiar, this was one of her regular platforms, a place where she could connect with viewers, rehabilitate her image, show her human side. Producers made it abundantly clear why. They don't want the storm surrounding her anywhere near their production. Think about what that means. British media, which has never been shy about controversial figures, decided Sarah Ferguson was too toxic to feature, too risky, too dangerous to their brand. Then came reports of something even more desperate.
It was just an invisible hand. You always felt it. And it was,
Meetings with what sources call a brand rescue team. Experts brought in specifically to help Sarah figure out how she can financially survive after losing her titles, her charity roles, her media presence, and her place in the royal system. This isn't about polishing her image anymore. This is about basic financial survival. How does someone who has lived on royal connections and charitable work for decades suddenly create an income stream when all those doors have slammed shut? It's a complete restart at her age, with her reputation in tatters, with the Epstein scandal following her everywhere. But here's what really reveals how desperate things have become. Do you want to know who's most worried about all of this? Who's watching their mother's life unravel with genuine terror? Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, Sarah's own daughters. The daughters' intervention. Multiple sources confirm that both Beatrice and Eugenie are deeply worried about their mother's situation. And can you blame them? They're watching their mother lose everything while their father's scandal continues to dominate headlines. Both daughters are reportedly urging Sarah to do three things: step back from public life, rebuild her image privately, and create distance, real, measurable distance from their parents' scandals. But here's where it gets really interesting. What looks like a rescue mission might actually be an intervention. Princess Eugenie and her husband Jack Brooksbank purchased a property at Costa Terra in 2022. It's worth several £1 million. It's in this exclusive, celebrity-packed enclave with its own golf course, spa, and some of the most expensive homes in Portugal. And now they're preparing it specifically for Sarah to occupy, not for a visit, to live. Think about what that means. The daughters know January will be rough. They know their mother needs somewhere far from the British press, somewhere she can exist without constant scrutiny, somewhere she can try to rebuild some semblance of a normal life. But I want you to consider something else. Is this really just about protection, or is this also about control?
So I kind of have this sort of
About making sure their mother doesn't do anything else that might damage the family's reputation further. Because here's what's really happening beneath the surface. The cracks in Sarah and Andrew's relationship are now completely public. Andrew is being moved to Sandringham under massive pressure from King Charles. His finances are precarious. His reputation is broken beyond repair, and Sarah cannot follow him. She's not invited, and palace sources suggest she's actively not wanted there. One insider described recent interactions between Sarah and Andrew as heartbreaking. Dinners filled with difficult conversations about their inevitable split. Sarah is described as increasingly emotional, sometimes breaking down, terrified about what comes next. This is a woman who has spent nearly 2 decades in this unique post-divorce arrangement with Andrew. They divorced in 1996, but they never really separated. They lived together. They supported each other. They presented this unconventional but seemingly functional partnership to the world. And now, that's over. She's being physically separated from the one constant relationship in her adult life, the one person who understood what it meant to fall from royal grace. Why Portugal? So why Portugal specifically? Why not France? Why not Spain? Why not somewhere in the Caribbean? The answer reveals just how calculated this escape really is. Former NBC boss Ted Harbert called Costa Terra the Hamptons of Europe, and he's not wrong. This is where the global elite go when they want privacy without sacrificing luxury. Private beaches, private security, private chefs, and most importantly, a community of Hollywood stars and business moguls who understand the value of discretion. For a woman who just lost all her royal privileges but is desperate to maintain some level of social status, it's perfect. She can blend in with other wealthy, famous people without being swallowed by her scandal. She's just another wealthy resident, not the disgraced Duchess. But there's another angle here that's even more strategic. Portugal has relatively relaxed press laws compared to the UK.
Street Child is so good is that children in crisis were in the field in Sierra Leone, saw Tom's work.
British tabloids, which have absolutely tortured the York family for decades, have less reach there. American investigators would face additional jurisdictional hurdles. It's not impossible to reach her there, but it's significantly more complicated. And here's something most people don't realize. Portugal has become a haven for British expatriates, particularly wealthy ones seeking tax advantages and privacy. The Portuguese government actively courts high net worth individuals. There are specific visa programs designed exactly for people like Sarah. She could, theoretically, establish permanent residency relatively easily, which raises the question, is this temporary exile or permanent relocation? The financial crisis. But there's another crisis bubbling beneath the surface that makes this escape even more urgent: money, or rather, the lack of it. Financial controversies surrounding Sarah Ferguson have recently resurfaced in the press, specifically her involvement with Pegasus Group Holdings, a failed Bitcoin venture she actively promoted. According to reports, Sarah earned £200,000 up front, plus a promised £1.2 million bonus before the company spectacularly imploded, leaving investors furious and her reputation further damaged. That story is being recirculated now, at the exact moment of the Royal Lodge eviction. Coincidence? In the world of British tabloids and royal reporting, there are no coincidences. This is coordinated, Someone wants Sarah's financial dealings back in the headlines.
Persuasion for her to fall in love with him. He wooed her with bouquets of red roses and quiet dinners.
Right as she loses her home. Why? Because it reinforces a narrative that Sarah Ferguson is financially irresponsible, that she makes poor choices, that she associates with questionable people, that she doesn't deserve royal protection or support. And here's the truly terrifying part. For someone about to lose her home, financial pressure isn't just stressful, it's potentially catastrophic. Sarah cannot afford a Windsor lifestyle without a Windsor roof. The expenses she's used to, the standard of living she's maintained, the social obligations she's expected to fulfill, all of that requires significant wealth. What happens when that's gone? What happens when the charitable work dries up, the media appearances stop, and the passive income from royal connections evaporates? This is why the daughters are stepping in. They're watching their mother face potential financial ruin on top of everything else. The Portugal property isn't just emotional refuge. It's practical support. It's keeping their mother from a complete financial collapse. The final days at Royal Lodge. New reporting has emerged about Sarah's final days at Royal Lodge, and honestly, it's heartbreaking regardless of what you think about her choices. Sources describe Sarah spending long periods in Royal Lodge's private bar, not drinking excessively. That's not what this is about, but hiding, confiding in trusted staff members, pouring out her fears about everything that's coming. One staff member, speaking anonymously, said, "Sarah is terrified about multiple things simultaneously: losing her home, her precarious financial situation, the possibility of being pulled back into the Epstein investigation, and most painfully, how all of this affects Beatrice and Eugenie's lives and reputations." Think about that for a moment. Imagine being in your 60s, having already survived a very public divorce, years of media mockery, financial scandals, and social humiliation. You've rebuilt something resembling a life. You found a way to coexist with your ex-husband. You've maintained relationships with your daughters. You've carved out a role for yourself, however imperfect. And then, in a matter of months, it all collapses again. The home you've lived in for 17 years, gone. The relationship with your ex-husband, ending. Your reputation, destroyed. Your financial security, uncertain. Your future, completely unclear. Friends and insiders who've spoken to reporters describe Sarah's emotional state as fragile, anxious, and increasingly desperate. The Portugal plan, they insist, isn't a luxury holiday. It's not even a strategic retreat. It's a survival plan. It's the only option left when every other door has closed. Some royal watchers believe she'll return once the storm passes, that this is temporary exile, and eventually, when the Epstein news cycle moves on, when King Charles's attention shifts elsewhere, when Andrew's situation stabilizes, she'll come back to Britain. But others think this is permanent, especially if Eugenie and Jack continue building their life in Portugal, if their children grow up there, if it becomes the family's European base. Sarah may settle in southern Europe full-time, maintaining only occasional visits to Britain. It's private, it's warm, it's far from tabloids, and increasingly, it might be her only realistic option. The palace's perspective. Now let's look at this from the palace's perspective for a moment, because understanding why they want Sarah gone is crucial to understanding this entire situation. King Charles is trying to streamline the monarchy. That's not speculation. That's his stated goal. Fewer working royals, lower costs, more efficiency. A modern, relevant institution for the 21st century. In that vision, there's no room for Sarah Ferguson. She's not a working royal. She hasn't been for decades. She's divorced from a prince who himself has been effectively removed from public duties. She brings no value to the institution. But she brings enormous risk. Every scandal that touches her reflects on the family. Every financial controversy raises questions about royal judgment. Every time her name appears next to Epstein in a headline, it reminds the public of the monarchy's worst association. From a cold, institutional perspective, removing her makes perfect sense. She's a liability without corresponding benefit. And King Charles, whatever his personal feelings might be, is nothing if not institutional in his thinking.
We are united in giving utmost thanks.
But there's something else happening here too, something more emotional and more complicated. Prince Andrew's fall from grace has been one of the most dramatic in modern royal history. He went from the Queen's favorite son to essentially exiled from public life. The Epstein Association destroyed him. The palace watched that happen. They saw how one connection, one friendship, one association could bring down decades of royal privilege and protection. They learned that some scandals are so toxic, the only solution is complete separation. Sarah Ferguson, in their eyes, is a walking reminder of that scandal. As long as she's connected to Andrew, as long as she's living in a royal property, as long as she's perceived as part of the royal family, the scandal stays alive. Removing her from Royal Lodge isn't just about the property. It's about severing the visual, physical connection between the Epstein scandal and the monarchy. It's about creating distance that the public can see and understand. It's brutal. It's arguably unfair, but it's calculated, and from the palace's perspective, necessary. What this means for the monarchy. Let's zoom out for a moment and consider what Sarah Ferguson's forced exile means for the broader institution of the monarchy. This is a family that has, for centuries, protected its own. Through scandals, through embarrassments, through behavior that would destroy ordinary families, the royal family has historically closed ranks. They've provided grace and favor homes to distant relatives. They've maintained allowances for people barely connected to the line of succession. They've valued family loyalty above almost everything else. Sarah Ferguson is the ex-wife of a prince, the mother of two princesses who are in the line of succession. She maintained a close relationship with Queen Elizabeth II until Her Majesty's death. She attended family events. She participated in royal occasions. For all practical purposes, she remained part of the family. And now, she's being discarded, not quietly supported through a difficult period, not given time to rebuild privately, actively pushed out with nowhere to go. What does that tell you about the modern monarchy under King Charles? It tells you that institutional protection has limits, that blood relation matters less than institutional risk, that the monarchy, as an institution, will sacrifice individuals to protect itself, even individuals with deep family connections. This is the new reality, a streamlined, efficient, risk-averse monarchy that cannot afford the luxury of loyalty when that loyalty becomes expensive. And if they'll do this to Sarah Ferguson, the mother of royal princesses, what does that mean for other marginal royals? What does it mean for anyone who might stumble, who might make a mistake, who might become more liability than asset?
And how right she was. And today we talk about Lisa Marie. We look at Priscilla.
The message is clear and chilling. You're only royal as long as you're useful. The moment you become a problem, the institution will push you out, regardless of history, regardless of relationship, regardless of the personal cost. The daughter's dilemma. Now let's talk about the two people caught in the absolute worst position in all of this, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Imagine being in their situation for just a moment. Your father is embroiled in one of the worst scandals in modern royal history. Your mother is associated with that scandal by proximity and her own connections. Your family home is being taken away. Your parents' relationship is ending. The monarchy you were born into is actively pushing your mother out. And you're expected to maintain your own royal duties, your own public image, your own relationships with the rest of the family, all while watching your parents' lives implode. Sources describe both sisters as being in an impossible position. They love their mother. That's not in question. But they also understand that association with her is increasingly dangerous to their own reputations, their own ability to maintain their place in royal life. This is why they're orchestrating the Portugal escape. It's not abandonment. It's strategic distancing. They're helping their mother find safety and privacy, but they're also creating physical distance that protects themselves. Some critics have called this enabling, that by providing Sarah with a luxury escape, they're preventing her from facing full accountability for her choices. that they're cushioning her from consequences that might force real change.
Oh.
Wit? Charm?
Yes, probably.
Yes.
And the red hair.
But is that fair? Are daughters obligated to let their mother suffer completely to prove some point about accountability? Where's the line between supporting family and enabling destructive behavior? These are impossibly difficult questions, and Beatrice and Eugenie are living them in real time, under global scrutiny. One thing is certain, this situation is changing their relationship with their mother forever. The dynamic is shifting from Sarah as parent to Sarah as dependent. The power balance is inverting, and that comes with its own complicated emotions and consequences. The media's role. We need to talk about the British tabloids' role in all of this because they're not innocent bystanders. They're active participants in Sarah Ferguson's destruction. For over 3 decades, British tabloids have treated Sarah Ferguson as a punching bag. They mocked her weight. They ridiculed her fashion choices. They detailed her financial struggles with gleeful precision. They photographed her in compromising situations. They gave her cruel nicknames that followed her everywhere. And now, when she's at her lowest point, they're circling like sharks who've smelled blood in the water. Every story about the Portugal escape, every detail about Royal Lodge eviction, every resurfaced financial scandal, every mention of the Epstein connection, it's all being amplified, repeated, and weaponized to ensure maximum humiliation. Is this journalism? Or is it something else? When does public interest reporting become public destruction? Sarah Ferguson is a flawed person who has made questionable choices. That's not in dispute, but the level of sustained, vicious coverage she's received for decades goes beyond simply reporting facts. It's personal.
Yes.
And would he come and visit you in the flat and
Lavender Garden.
It's vindictive, and it's contributing directly to the exile we're watching unfold. The tabloids know that every story they publish makes it harder for Sarah to rebuild. Every headline makes her more toxic to potential employers, charitable organizations, and media companies. They're not just reporting her exile, they're helping to cause it, and they're making money from it. Every click, every purchase, every viewer who watches a video about her downfall. The media is profiting from Sarah Ferguson's destruction, while claiming they're just reporting the news. What happens next? So where does this go from here? What actually happens in January when the deadline arrives? The most likely scenario, based on current reporting, is this. Andrew moves to Sandringham, probably before Christmas, to avoid maximum media attention. Sarah spends the holidays with Beatrice and Eugenie, possibly at Royal Lodge one final time, possibly already at Costa Terra. And by February, Sarah is fully established in Portugal. But here are the variables nobody can predict. Will the congressional Epstein investigation actually call for her testimony? Will more financial scandals emerge? Will Andrew's situation deteriorate further, putting additional pressure on Sarah? Will the British tabloids find new angles to keep this story alive? And perhaps most importantly, will Sarah Ferguson stay quiet? Because here's what's really keeping the palace up at night. Sarah Ferguson knows things. She was married to Andrew during crucial periods. She was present at events. She met people. She has information that could be extraordinarily damaging if she decided to share it. Recent reports suggest she's had meetings with publishers, that she's considering writing a tell-all memoir,
And we went into this nightclub, and she was very good as her costume.
that she's exploring every possible option to generate income and perhaps to tell her side of the story. The palace is reportedly terrified of this possibility. A Sarah Ferguson memoir, written from exile, with nothing left to lose. That could be devastating. She could detail decades of behind-the-scenes royal behavior. She could name names. She could describe exactly what Andrew told her about Epstein. She could reveal how the palace treated her during this entire ordeal. King Charles's team is apparently in crisis mode, trying to prevent this. But what leverage do they have? They've already taken her home. They've already pushed her out. What more can they threaten? This is why the Portugal exile might actually backfire for the palace. They've removed Sarah from their immediate sphere of control. They've eliminated her reasons to protect the institution. They've given her every motivation to speak out. Outro. So let me bring this full circle. Sarah Ferguson is preparing to flee Britain, not because she wants to, because she has no other choice. The royal family has systematically removed every support structure she had: her home, her charity work, her media presence, her relationship with Andrew, her place in the royal system. All of it gone. And so she's escaping to her daughter's villa in Portugal, to a celebrity enclave where she can hide from tabloids, congressional investigations, and the palace's judgment. This is what exile looks like in the 21st century. Not imprisonment, not banishment to some remote location, but strategic distancing, comfortable isolation, gilded cage, just in a different country. But here's what I want you to think about as this story continues to unfold. Sarah Ferguson made mistakes. She maintained connections she shouldn't have. She accepted money she shouldn't have taken. She didn't always show good judgment. But does that justify this level of institutional abandonment? Does one connection to Jeffrey Epstein mean she deserves to lose everything, including her home? Does being associated with Prince Andrew's scandal make her irredeemable? And what does this say about the monarchy itself? About its willingness to discard people? About its cold institutional calculations? About what happens when loyalty becomes inconvenient? These aren't easy questions, and I'm not going to pretend there are simple answers. What I do know is this. In January, Sarah Ferguson will leave Britain, possibly forever. She'll settle into a luxury villa in Portugal, surrounded by Hollywood celebrities and wealthy expatriates. She'll be far from the palace, far from the tabloids, and far from the life she once knew. And the monarchy will quietly breathe a sigh of relief, grateful to have eliminated one more complication from their carefully managed public image. But this story isn't over, not even close. Because Sarah Ferguson, sitting in Portugal with nothing left to lose, might just decide it's time to tell her full story. And when she does, the palace's careful calculations might come crashing down. So what do you think? Is Sarah Ferguson's Portugal escape justified? Are Beatrice and Eugenie helping their mother or enabling her avoidance of accountability? And most importantly, will fleeing to Portugal actually protect her from the Epstein investigation? Or is she just delaying the inevitable? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear your perspective on this because it's complicated, controversial, and absolutely fascinating. And if you're wondering what Sarah might reveal if she does write that tell-all memoir, if you want to know exactly what has King Charles's team in panic mode, you need to see my next video. I'm going to break down the publisher meetings, the potential book deals, and why the monarchy is absolutely terrified of what Sarah Ferguson might expose. That video is coming next, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Hit that like button if you found this deep dive valuable. Subscribe if you want more unfiltered analysis of what's really happening inside the royal family. And share this with anyone who still thinks they understand the full story. Because, trust me, there's so much more beneath the surface. Sarah Ferguson's escape to Portugal is just beginning, and what happens next might change everything we think we know about the House of York, the Epstein scandal, and the modern monarchy itself. I'll see you in the next video. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep questioning the official narrative.